an Osborne long one or a Jefferson long one, sure, but the ball's got to get there. It could be tough sledding for Cook. Now, you send the pressure, you talk about the screen game, and Minnesota runs very complex screen stuff. Again, you don't have Cousins distributing the ball, though. Your point guard, for lack of a better term, is out of the game. That's what Kirk Cousins is, right, in this offense, right? So it's, no matter how you look at it, there you take 2 steps forward with talking to yourself into these Minnesota skill guys, and you take 1 step back.
Yep.
So you're going to see a lot of one-on-one, a lot of pressure, a lot of stacked boxes. Like, is Green Bay that bad against the run that, maybe this thing, Minnesota takes the kickoff and maybe they can't stop Dalvin? I mean, it's an outcome. It's not a totally unreasonable outcome, right?
Yeah, Dalvin is very attractive. You mentioned Green Bay's run defense. I think at least they try that at the beginning. Like, they're going to come out running the ball pretty heavy to start the game. I think maybe if they stack the box against Cook and he can't have any success, then they turn Mannion loose. But I think Cook is going to be able to find some room here. It's going to be their easiest path to move the football. If they're relying on Sean Mannion to get down the field, it's going to be a problem for them, I think. So, yeah, Cook is my favorite play on Minnesota, despite the heavy price tag. Talked about the role. We've seen him miss games before and then come right back and have like 25, 30 touches. So the role for Cook is outstanding. With the backup quarterback in there, Cook is definitely the Viking I feel most comfortable with.
Hey, Keith, so if you have Discord open, or if you don't, we might have not have been live for the last 10 minutes, but so our guy Slambert was in the chat and it was like, oh, they gave away all the winners. It's fine. But thanks for pointing that out, guys, for the winning everybody. It's just me BSing and being a loser and talking about my season long garbage anyway, for the most part. And, it was basically, we're talking about what is Mannion going to offer, and let's circle back here.
I just caught up on the Discord, so I see what you're talking about there.
Yeah, you know what? I had 9 screens open, with 10 different windows and tabs in each. So we can circle back here. Green Bay should play with a lead in theory, right? Like that's the public perception. Vegas likes it, right? And we said we would start with the big talking points, which would typically be Aaron Rodgers in a game with quarterbacks. A lot of things can go wrong for Minnesota. Like we talked about, Sean Mannion is cheap. We thought Cooper Rush would stink, and he lit up that showdown slate against Minnesota. So here we are. The game script of play with the lead running back, at captain is murky because you have a strange split hot hand type of duo now because AJ Dillon is actually good. And here comes Matt LaFleur because he loved throwing Dion Lewis in there in Tennessee when Derrick Henry was around too. I'm not saying AJ Dillon is as bad as Dion Lewis, which he's not, but you don't have alpha role. Aaron Jones anymore, which was oftentimes amazing leverage off of Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers for raw points. So it just gets murky here. So, we were talking about Minnesota and Mannion, and he can be bad and still be optimal if the value stinks. If you don't get the Mercedes Lewis 1 catch for 6 yards and a touchdown, this name escapes me. Merced, the rookie receiver from Minnesota, like, will he have a role? He's dirt cheap. Like, if they all stink or don't score at all, Mannion becomes even better. Typically, a quarterback would have a high floor at that price, Keith, but we don't know what his floor is. I don't know. Talk to me about this game. You alluded to the low total, and that kind of scares you quite a bit.
Yeah. Low total, big spread. So, I mean, theoretically, I think Minnesota should be passing more than expectation. Mannion has 2 career starts, so we don't have a lot of data to go off of here. He wasn't really good in either one of those starts. He's not a guy that runs very much at all. So you're relying on efficiency through the air, and obviously he has one of the best targets in football to throw to. But I'm definitely concerned that he is able to get the ball to Jefferson here today. It'd be a price tag type of play for me. He, like you said, he doesn't need to do very much at that minimum price. Just concerned about the overall efficiency. I think with the cold weather, Minnesota comes out, probably tries to get it going with Dalvin Cook, establish it a little bit. Maybe if Cook is facing stack boxes and things like that, and they're not able to get Cook going on the ground, they loosen it up and Mannion turns to the air.
That
But
sounds awesome.
it's a price tag thing. Justin Jefferson is actually the tougher one to play because of his price tag. Mannion is at a point where he doesn't need to be super efficient to pay it off.
Yep.
But it's Jefferson that would need the efficiency. So just concerned they come out trying to run it. I think I lean Cook as my preferred Vikings play.
I'm with you. And, we talked about, on top of obviously missing Kirk Cousins, who is like the point guard of this team, like they're going to see stacked boxes. They would have, I'm not guaranteeing anything, guaranteeing them Charles Barkley, but, survey says when you're going up against someone at the quarterback of caliber of Mannion, and it's no slight to him, he's just not proven whatsoever. You send pressure, you line up man on the outside, you stack the box and make him beat you. And sure, there could be a slip in man coverage, and Jefferson, Osborne and Jefferson have speed on the outside. The ball's got to get there though. You say, okay, well, they'll run some screens. I mean, Minnesota runs some very complex screen stuff. And we've seen that. So it's like, no matter, when you take two steps forward with talking to yourself and if some guys in Minnesota, you take one step back because of who's behind center tonight and how this game might play out. I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't load up the box and send some heat. And of course, I am speculating, right? But we watched a lot of football between us. Is that your best guess of how they would attack Mannion in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't want to play Cook, though. Cook is very capable out of the backfield. You mentioned they run plenty of screens for him and things like that. Even if this game script gets away from Minnesota and they're trailing by a couple of touchdowns, you're still going to see a ton of Dalvin Cook. I think there are more paths for Cook to get there than there are for Jefferson. The efficiency isn't going to be there. Like I have a hard time seeing Justin Jefferson catch 10 balls in this game just because of who's throwing them to him. So more catchable targets for Cook. Maybe he breaks off a big run or something. So I prefer Cook over Jefferson in this situation.
And let's not underestimate how bad Green Bay is against the run this season, especially if you look at our Gridiron IQ tool. They are top three worst in the league in yielding gap and zone successful run plays. They're bad. They give up the 10th most 10 plus runs. They are the worst in blown block percentage. So there's like you're pushed to maybe play some Dalvin. If you're sending a bunch of undisciplined linebackers into gaps or they over pursue, you're already you're the worst team in blown block percentage defensively. Dalvin could hit the home run. I mean, if they get the ball and Dalvin's able to get through a couple of holes and Green Bay, despite the stacked boxes, they can compete for like 3.5 quarters, maybe. Like a lot of things have to go right. But we also talked about, Minnesota's going to need everything to go right to win this game and it be close. And then you start like adding in the ticky tack things. Like you have the dome team not only going outside, but going to play in the tundra, where I haven't checked Roth's article since noon and I forgot what it said, but I'm sure it's probably 20 degrees or less there.
Yeah, it's less than that. It's even colder. I think 10 degrees about kickoff and declining from there. So luckily no wind, which is always the bigger factor. But I mean, we're not talking about like 30 degrees just below freezing. We're talking about like single digit temperatures here.
Right. And we're seeing, a quarterback, with minimal reps going to play in freezing cold weather. And we'll see the first, time or two he gets hit hard. I see some buzz about Green Bay defense in the chat and I think that's a big talking point of tonight too. And, typically we go position by position, but I thought we'd mix it up and just talk about the big things we want to talk about first. And you're seeing 20 plus ownership on a defense, but they're still priced as if Kirk Cousins is the quarterback at 4K. So talk to me about the defense here tonight, man. You in or you out? I'm in personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ownership that scares you off a little bit. The price tag is definitely very attractive. Like you mentioned, they're priced like they're facing a Kirk Cousins who's been really good this year, very efficient. We do not expect Sean Mannion to have that type of success against this team. Definitely live for the pick sixes. I mean, just turnovers in general. Green Bay's defense is definitely in play.
Devin, should like we spoil it or wait till the end? Do you have a gut call on the? Is there a pick six tonight? Like,
I
are we
mean,
getting one out of
I
either
was
team?
just typing it into chat. I see Slambert, one of our regular users, they said I'm going Dalvin captain, and I could easily see what if Minnesota gets an early lead, they just get to run the ball. Green Bay has a pick six at one point, get some production there. I don't know if I go Dalvin captain, but I can definitely see that game script working out.
It's an outcome. It's an outcome.
And yes, I do like the Packers for a pick six tonight. To go ahead. We'll put that on the table.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. Lock it in. Lock of the century. No pressure, Dev. Keep the streak alive. All right. Favorite, MVP, FanDuel, captain, Carolina guy. We'll definitely get to there. But I mean, with the way we're talking, you could probably imagine we think Dalvin would be a good way to go. I mean, let's just get that out of the way now, because you have Adams and Rodgers, right? And like maybe we think Mannion's probably like the 45th best quarterback in the league at best. So like typically you go with the lesser owned quarterback for raw points, but if Minnesota's going to make any noise, it's going to be with Dalvin hitting a blown block, going to the house, and maybe we see like 25 to 30 carries out of Dalvin as an outcome potentially. Yeah, that's where my brain goes in contrarian MVP.
Yeah, I definitely like that. I think there are outcomes. He gets there in a trailing game script too. Mannion, I don't foresee him having success down the field. I think check downs, screen games type of stuff to Dalvin. He could end up with 5-6 receptions easily here.
Yeah, could be a lot of help me Dalvin check down looks.
Yep.
Couple hospital. No, I'm just saying, like, they say Jimmy G throws the hospital ball as well. I don't know. I'd be a little nervous to be Dalvin Cook tonight in the check down game. All right. So let's we talked about Mannion, so let's talk about the guy Aaron Rodgers, who's never in the media or anything, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Let's all bring up captain ownerships here on DK. You can see I'll sort by P-own, Alvin, Devontae. Dalvin, Devontae, there's too many. Aaron, then we're doing NBA, and you're talking about guys with similar names over there. So let me take a deep breath and say Devontae Adams, 19% projected ownership at captain. Aaron Rodgers not far behind, but it's not like we're seeing like a 30. This isn't a Lamar Jackson slate where he's 50%. So you're still seeing, a little bit of, what am I saying? Dispersed ownership amongst the opinions on captain here. I don't think any of that's egregious. I'm okay, with someone of Dalvin's upside. I'm okay with, sub 20%, just because of the volume he should command. And sometimes I'd be like, I don't know, kind of want the guy who's 10%, or sub 10%. But like, are you okay with that for Devontae Adams?
I am, yeah, and it's just because of his role. I mean, we were talking about Jefferson on the other side has a great role. You talk about Cooper Kupp, obviously, but Devontae Adams has as good of a role as anybody in football. 30% target share, massive red zone share, air yard share. Everything you look for a wide receiver role, Devontae Adams has it. I think that makes it pretty easy to play Adams in captain over Rodgers for me. So despite Adams being slightly higher owned than Rodgers in the captain, I think that makes sense. I'd be more likely to fade Rodgers in the captain than I would be to fade Adams in the captain.
I think I agree. And, we've seen just some monster games out of Adams, and even his bad games are still okay. Like, you're not going to take anything down with him, but look at that volume, as a wide receiver. I mean, if Cooper Kupp wasn't doing Cooper Kupp things, we'd be talking about Adams volume all the time, right? It's just ridiculous stuff here. And I quite frankly, I don't think Minnesota has the personnel. Like, you can try to double him or like you said, the red zone, his presence in the red zone is huge, especially without, you're looking at all these multi-touchdown games. Sorry, my font's super huge, so it fits on the screen the right way. But, not having Robert Tonyan, who was a red zone beast last year, really helps Adams. He's the de facto primary target inside the 5, and it wasn't the case last year all the time. It was Tonyan. Like, he was so touchdown dependent, it was ridiculous. But Adams is my preferred captain tonight. It's close. Like, could it be an Aaron Rodgers spread it out game? Lazard's been looking good. Valdez-Scantling quietly probably having a career year. So, could it be a spread it out game? Like, do you have a lean between a Rodgers spread it out or a Devontae like mega volume 2 touchdown game?
I think that Green Bay is just going to be content to sit on any type of a lead, knowing that Sean Mannion is not really going to be able to do much on the other side. I think Green Bay leans pretty run heavy here. So I know we haven't talked about running backs, but it's a little bit of a messy situation with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. They've been running around a 60-40 split for most of the year. I'm okay with that in this game. So it's Adams for me first, but I have interest in the running game. Aaron Jones, the price tag is difficult with only 60% share of the rushing. He does a little bit in the pass game as well, but we've seen him. I mean, the red zone role for Aaron Jones is great, and we've seen AJ Dillon close games out if they play with a lead too. I think we could see a situation where both of the running backs just see a ton of touches here. So I'm okay playing Jones and Dillon together and just hope that Jones is the guy that scores first, and then they use AJ Dillon to kind of close out the game, grind out the clock. I think you fade Devontae Adams in a lineup like that. So I think my negative correlation I'm baking into this is touchdowns between Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. So usually you'd say the running backs negatively correlate. I'm going to go with the two higher price guys, and I'm going to try to limit my exposure to Jones and Adams in the same lineup.
Build rules are going to be big here for you tonight, huh?
Yeah, and usually, like I said, the running backs are where you would do that. But if Green Bay gets up 2 scores and it's Mannion trying to catch up, I think Green Bay is just completely content to sit on that lead. I like both of the running backs to have pretty big roles here.
I don't know if the Chief is tuned in, but we had a food for thought earlier this season where he called Aaron Rodgers like the best game manager of all time, and it was a good one. And but Rodgers isn't the $350 a week guy. Like he's so efficient. He's a surgeon, man. So you're right, and plus he's banged up. So if they're up 21, like last week was the first week that I've seen him not physically like dinged up, but like really like bothering him. Like wasn't able to compose himself.
Yeah,
so,
he's hobbling around, and yeah.
I think I'm more prone to have a Rodgers spread it out team if I think this game was going to be competitive. And I mean, it might be for, like you said, I think the bigger lead might come into play. Like you said, play a little conservative towards the third, fourth quarter. So I think I'm more prone to go with all right, like Devontae does it early, 90 yards at halftime and a touchdown. And maybe it's optimal, it could be depending on how ugly it is. And maybe he does a little bit in the second half. So I think that being said, I'm more prone to not playing Rodgers a captain, despite looking at that 15% projected ownership and loving that for sure. We talked about one of our last 2 shows about how the industry is pumping out all this content about wide receiver ones being the best leverage, that we're almost seeing things reverse slowly where you're getting great ownership on quarterbacks, a captain and MVP. So maybe it's almost at the point where the quarterbacks to some degree are a little bit contrarian.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that overall. I'm just concerned that Green Bay doesn't like press on the gas in this game. Like they've been a team all season that is perfectly fine to slow the game down and use both of their running backs. I don't see why this would be any different with Mannion on the other side here, not able to push them. And
you factor in that if they get a scoop and score or a pick six or just get gifted field position this whole game, they might not have to, they just might not have to. That being said, I kind of like this rapid fire covering the big talking points thing than going position by position. I don't know. I hope you're okay with that, but it just makes more sense to cover the important stuff, I think. If that's okay with you. Sorry for
no worries.
If we're going like ADHD mode or if it's just the way my brain's working. The run game. If you look at we'll take a look at the flex pricing now. AJ Dillon might be like such a smash flex play, I think, at that price. I know it'll be popular, but I have no problem paying that for him, especially with the leading game script and Rodgers is dinged up a little bit. Like not, if you're saying they're not gonna keep the pedal down, then Dillon should get a ton of second half work here if we're building for the similar type of script. I love going overweight on Dillon at flex, with tonight's game. You got any thoughts on AJ Dillon?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was leading to. Dillon is my favorite play of the entire slate. I like his role here. The price tag at 5,200 is perfectly fine. 40% of the rushing share the last couple of weeks here. I mean, he's my favorite play of the slate. I don't really know. I think he has a role as long as Green Bay is winning the game, which I don't see many ways that they're not, with Sean Mannion on the other side. AJ Dillon is going to be involved throughout the game. So Dillon is my favorite play on the slate.
Can you run Dillon captain teams out there in the right script? Does he get 60 yards and 2 late fourth quarter touchdowns? You know, like, does he get one touch? It's like, when is the damage going to come? Does he walk into one in on one of his drives in the first half and then get cleanup crew on a second one and break this thing? When it's one of those where, wow, there's 5 minutes left in the game, my Devontae captain teams are looking good, and then boom, like a second dump in from Dillon and forget about it. Could it be one of those nights?
I think it could. The touchdowns are the thing. We talked about the low total, and if there's only 2 or 3 touchdowns scored in this game, I mean, I could see a game where Green Bay scores 3 touchdowns and Minnesota doesn't find the end zone. I mean, if Dillon has 2 of those touchdowns, he's absolutely the captain that you want, for sure.
Just for conversation's sake here, let me look up the snap counts. I'm on Minnesota. We'll go to Green Bay, and it's, you know, it's been close. I mean, since we can go back to week 10, just looking at the last couple of weeks, you know, 46, 49%, you know, then Jones missed a game, but he, you know, came back, didn't miss a beat, and it was basically an even split. Then they had the bye week, 54 to 45%, you know, then week 15, Jones played 63 to Dillon's 37. And, you know, Jones has a little bit more of the share, you know, it seems 56 to 44% last week, but per dollar, it's more than enough for Dillon, right? I mean, if you're going to give me 40 to 50% of the snaps out of a guy at that price in a good game script for him, that kind of checks all the boxes as a great play.
Yep, I'm right there. I mean, I just, Dillon has a great role. He's fairly priced, and we love the game script and how this is going to set up for him. To me, it's a perfect AJ Dillon type of game.
Okay. 8:00 Eastern, folks. So, you know, you have a little bit of time to tinker here. We can kind of run through a couple questions, so we have a little time to talk about them, I think. Let's talk about Slate IQ. You know, Yappy's in the chat saying shows a 4-2 build. To what you guys are saying, the 2 Minnesota players you can do is Cook and Conklin with Dillon and Cap. I mean, you can do a couple different things here. By the way, Alan's been hitting the home run with these Slate IQ articles as well. Let me pull that up. You got it up in front of you by any chance, Keith? Do we have leverage?
I do, yeah. The leverage I'm seeing is on the 5-1 build. So I mean, I think that makes sense. You build Green Bay heavy, that the big spread. Most of the production comes from Green Bay as Minnesota is kind of struggles to be efficient on offense with the change at quarterback. I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. And this goes hand in hand. Another question was, can you play 2 running backs? And if you're playing a slaughter, I think you can play Aaron Jones and Dillon together. The question is, like, do you roster one of them a captain? Like, there's many paths to the slaughter build here.
Yeah, so that's a difficult conversation, I think, can you play Jones at captain and Dillon in the flex? I think you would need I just talked about a game where there were 3 touchdowns. If all 3 touchdowns come from the running back position, that build is going to make sense. Now, we talked about Adams' amazing goal line red zone role as well. He certainly enters the conversation, but in a lineup you're fading Adams, I think it would be viable to captain one of the running backs and play the other in the flex.
I agree. I think that's a great call. You'll be super unique, that's for sure. On the flip side, you know, no one wants to play Mannion. Does he offer you enough upside at that price to captain him?
I mean, it's the price you're talking about. He's priced like a wide receiver too. Like Marquez Valdez-Scantling is $400 more than him. Conklin is $400 less than him. So he is in the range of like a secondary pass catcher. He doesn't need to do a ton to be optimal at that price.
I mean, if he throws 2 touchdowns
It's there.
It's over. It
Yeah.
might be over. Now, is he going to throw 2 touchdowns? At this point of the season and what we've seen, who am I to say no? I mean, I wouldn't play it optimally, right? But if you're playing the $11 DK, whatever, and yes, I think aside, give me your, and this goes hand in hand with the Mannion conversation. That was my brain trying to work, thinking about why didn't I have a coffee today? Outside of Dalvin Cook for like contrarian MVPs, if you're not into that, do you think it's Jefferson or do you think it's Mannion? Like, where's the damage going to be done from, Like, it's got to be a super ugly game if it's one of those guys on FanDuel at MVP. It would have to be like, wow, Rodgers' foot's messed up, right? Or God forbid he goes down or something, which I just can't. It's an outcome, but I just can't come to terms with it. And maybe that's a problem of mine. But
yeah, I don't like Mannion in the top spot. I'd rather play him in the flex as like a value type of play.
FanDuel, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get you don't have to spend extra to play him up there. So there's no advantage really to having that cheap guy on FanDuel. Where DraftKings, it helps a little bit more to use a cheaper guy in the captain.
The more I'm thinking about this, I remember a Marquise Brown slate that was terrible, and he was the only Raven on the team that won an MVP. Like if Jefferson does the Hundy and a touchdown and like takes all of Mannion's volume, like all of it, which is very possible because how many times have we seen him take like almost all of Kirk Cousins' volume? You can, it's disgusting. It's like an inverse slot. It just doesn't make any sense. But every once in a blue moon it hits when you have such a condensed target tree like that. And I'm not doing that. I'm not endorsing that. It's still Dalvin for contrarian MVP for me. And he's the key to this game being a bloodbath or not, I think, is despite the stacked boxes, can Dalvin do it?
I agree. I think if the Vikings are going to keep this a game, if it stays close, it's going to be because Dalvin is having success. Agree.
Have you found yourself landing on slaughter 5-1s more than like 4-2s?
I think if you build optimally, you're going to land on more 4-2s. So I did force a few extra 5-1s in there just to make sure that I was building for that. I bumped up both Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon because I think the Packers lean run heavy. I want my builds to run heavy. So yeah, if you do that, I mean, I'm way over the field on AJ Dillon. And then we talked about the Packers defense. We haven't talked about kickers, but in a low scoring game, kickers are always in play. They're both under 4K. So I think either one are in play. Definitely worried about the Minnesota efficiency. So prefer Crosby if I was picking a kicker, but I think Crosby's very much in play.
I agree. I think it's one of those games, and they show up optimally more times than we want to ever like talk about it. And it's boring and it's hard to project. It's hard to predict. That's part of the game too. So the kickers and defenses are very live, and that probably goes without saying tonight. Okay, I think we have similar takes on Dillon. Like, I would want to be way overweight on Dillon myself. I'm throwing some darts in tonight, and I have Dillon on I think all my teams, or 90% of my teams. So that I think he has many paths at that price as a flex, and I think like you said, you can talk me into a captain, a whoopsie garbage time touchdown, kind of taking the cake there too. Let's get a build going on here. Let me bring up the lineup preview. We'll build something for like an optimal tournament. Come on, lineup preview. There we go. And thanks for sticking with us, guys. Long Sundays here, 8:08 Eastern. Make sure you're saving your work as you go. Okay. I don't know. Who's your favorite captain tonight? We talked about a lot of stuff and a lot of different paths, but for optimal stuff, I'm assuming it's going to be a Packer here.
Definitely a Packer. From an optimal standpoint, the answer for me is still Davante Adams. We talked about it at the top of the show. Just his role is absolutely elite. A little bit of a split in the backfield. So I think more often than not, Davante Adams is the highest scorer here.
I'm with you. So we have similar takes there. And I guess I'll stick. I'm gonna stick Dillon here at flex. We talked. I can't do that. Come on, Justin, you're better than that. Let me get over here to flex. Similar takes. The price is too good for Dillon for his role. RB2s typically, give you a lot of leverage. RB2s pop up in optimals quite a bit. And like Dillon might be the best RB2. He's like a 1B in the league. We're seeing we're just reiterating some points there. Almost an even snap share, since he's thrusted himself into that role. And should see some fourth quarter work if Green Bay chooses to be conservative, like you said. You made a really good point, and we talked about Rodgers' foot and how bad is it, etc. And with the potential of a defensive touchdown, and Mannion could be pretty terrible. Could be. He could be good. Let's be real. We'll be nice. We'll be honest here. He could be good, but I think it's likely he's not very good outside against a ton of pressure in the terrible weather, cold, blah 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 blah. Anyway, they might not have to throttle. They might not have to try so hard to throttle Minnesota if it if it works out that way. So 5-1s, ton of leverage. Do you want to go 5-1 or should we go 4-2 here? Should we try to look for a non-slot build here or no?
Let's see how it shakes out. I think the take I want to get out there is that Dalvin Cook is the Viking that I want to have. Whether we want to put Sean Mannion in there because of his price, I think is how it gets to 4-2 if we want to do that. But I feel pretty good about Dalvin Cook's role in this game. I think they come out, try to establish the run with him. And they just lean heavily on him with the change at quarterback. So Dalvin Cook is the one Viking that I have to have.
By the way, I don't know who was tuned in for crunch time here, but we got like 5 minutes left in the Boston game, and I was telling you to pepper the Jaylen Brown overs. He's at 33 points with just under 5 minutes left, and that 40-point plus on FanDuel is plus 1,200. So if he hits that, I can give less of a I can care less about whatever Mannion does tonight in about 20 minutes. So, listen, he's so cheap. There are paths, and with the as tricky as it's going to be for him with the pressure that's going to come in the man coverage, it's Lambeau, it's cold, a slip. Jefferson is one of the best yak guys in the league. Osborne's super fast. It's not ideal for them because we said this could be a check down Charlie game for the Conklin. So we didn't talk about tight ends, but Conklin's that big safety valve who lines up in the slot quite a bit too. Could be very friendly for Mannion. So I do like Conklin, and maybe he finds himself. He found himself into some of my builds here as I was going. He did, but it's almost like you want to play the upside. If you're gonna play Jefferson, like it's tough without Cousins. Like that just flipped this whole thing. All that being said here, I think we have to have this conversation quickly, but I think there are paths where Rodgers isn't necessary as a flex, even with Devontae as a captain. And I know it. Oh man, are you agreeing with me? Are you shaking your head here, or is it going to be like, nah, Luch, you're crazy?
No, I think I'm agreeing with you because of that massive role that Adams has. I also talked about the way Green Bay has. They've been almost comfortable settling on their leads and then just completely slowing the game down and running a ton in the second half with a lead. So if we had a situation where Rodgers comes out and throws a touchdown to Devontae early, maybe Devontae gets a couple more catches, but Rodgers doesn't throw any other touchdown passes, and then they just lean heavily on the running backs. I think there's a scenario where Adams could eat up a ton of Rodgers' production, and you just get most of Rodgers' production by playing Devontae only.
I don't know what his pass props are, but like it doesn't matter. It just could be one of those surgical, like 16 of 21 for like 220 and 2 touchdowns, both to Adams. And then here comes AJ Dillon, who trots in, garbage time. It really could be, I made the joke about Chief saying, and I don't know if he's tuning in, I'm just busting on him a little bit about being one of the best game managers ever, but like he does what he has to do. And he's always had a good enough run game pretty much where, they were able to kind of hang out in these fourth quarters sometimes, and for not hang out, but you know what I mean? Not throttle, not have to throttle. And I want to throw the Green Bay defense in here with this team. Are you with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. We're talking about a backup quarterback, talking about freezing temperatures, single digit temperatures, probably by the end of the game. I'm completely fine with that. I like this to be a low scoring game that goes under the already low total.
You got to be a diehard to be out at Lambeau tonight, probably. And I know they will be. They always are. But yeah, that's going to be a cold one. You can see like there's so many options. You have 69.50 left per position here. Even like just for argument's sake, even if you want to throw Rodgers in a team like this, you have 2,700 left over. We didn't talk a ton about value, except I don't know if you guys were in the chat or not, but there are a couple of like 3-digit guys and cheap guys that. I mean, Mercedes Lewis, he's due for one of these one catch 6 yards in a touchdown game. Come on, Mercedes, like keep the tight end narrative alive, right? Like it's possible. Smith Marset, he became relevant finally in a game and the showdown. I think it was actually too a couple weeks ago. So that being said, I'm like pointing to the screen like you can see what I'm doing, but all these cheap value guys, there's a chance that they all bust tonight too. I know we don't have Mannion in this build, but are you okay with someone who's saying, can I run Mannion as my lone Viking? Like, is there an outcome where he's the lone Viking? Is that good enough?
Because of the price, I think that it is okay. I mean, obviously Cook and Jefferson both need to do significantly more than Mannion to end up in the winning lineup. Like you'd have a situation, raw points, like if the Packers just absolutely trounce the Vikings and there's no other production on the Vikings, Jefferson and Cook are both going to fail. And maybe Mannion is just that perfect, like mid-range priced guy. Like he's going to score some points just being a quarterback. Right. So I could definitely see him finding his way in there, even if the Vikings don't do a ton on offense.
I mean, if you want to use him as your lone Viking, you could take Dalvin out and go. We talked about the double, Aaron Jones, Dillon kind of situation. I think that's a swap you can make probably.
Yep. I agree.
Although Dalvin has it's a contrarian take, and his ownership is showing that he has a chance to like keep the Vikings in this thing. I want to reiterate, the Green Bay is not good against the run statistically. Check out our Gridiron IQ tools. Like terrible blown, like one oopsie blown block over pursuing. We're stacking the box, and Dalvin's gone. See you later. It's possible. Just had to throw that out there. Thanks for sticking with us, chat. We did a little bit of running around here, and I'm glad you guys finally all were able to join us after the first couple of minutes. If you have any other questions that we didn't get to, let me know. I had a bunch of tabs open, and I apologize if I missed anything that you guys want to hear quickly from either me, Keith, or Devin. In the meantime, since it's 8:16 Eastern, I will bring Devin in and say, Devin, have you had any other takes about this game since the beginning when we talked and you said that you were feeling a Green Bay pick six?
I'm still feeling the Green Bay pick six. We're in Discord, we're chatting it out. We're trying to find an equilibrium, a happy medium with all the hot takes, the extreme takes. Slambert says football night in America. They all went Packers, 8-0 Packers. So find myself wanting to say, everybody says Mannion can't move the ball. Maybe put Mannion in the flex. Put him in the flex with some Cook in there.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to captain Rodgers and kind of rotate some pass options around there. Put some emphasis on Aaron Jones too. Everybody's going AJ Dillon,
Right. It's a little uncomfortable to pay up for the split share guy.
Right.
But I think Rodgers trusts him a little more. I think there's more, I don't know. And he is capable of receiving out of the backfield too.
Well, in line with the thinking that nobody thinks Mannion can do anything, what if the game stays closer and AJ Dillon doesn't have, all the garbage time that everybody's assuming he's going to get,
Very true. Very true. Do you think the Vegas totals will be accurate, guys? I mean, Keith, we have it at 27 and change to 4 there. That's Minnesota scoring 2 touchdowns hypothetically, but how close it is, and it could be a field goal game. I think maybe Minnesota wants to just try to get on the board early, and they've come up short. Drive stalls out. If they get decent field position early, it's like, well, let's get some points on the board and send the defense out there. Like you mentioned the kickers early. You want to touch on the kickers again, real quick, if you don't mind?
Yeah. I mean, I just think I know the total's really low, but I could see this going even further under the total. I think my take throughout the show has been that Green Bay will get that double-digit lead, but I don't think they press the gas very much. It's not like they're going to go out and throw up 35 points in this one. I think they'll be content with their 2-score lead. They'll grind out the clock. I could see them settling for field goals quite often. Like Jones and Dillon should be able to move the ball up and down the field, I think. And I just Green Bay is a team that has shown a propensity to play slow with a lead, and I think that's how this shakes out in that situation. This game doesn't have a ton of scoring. The kickers become very viable, Crosby in particular.
I think that's a great take. 8:19, guys. 8:19 Eastern. If you were asleep at the wheel or watching something else while we were in the background, make sure you hit that save button. Shout out to Mark, who just joined us, who's one of our regulars. We appreciate you, and hopefully you make some money today. And this league just surprises us, man. I did catch the end of the Cincy Kansas City game, and of course, as a Titans fan, I had significant rooting interest in trying to get that 1 seed, but what a sequence. I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan, that probably ripped your heart out. Did you catch the end of that game?
I did see the end, yeah. They had it on the 1 yard line for several plays, and kept dropping back to pass, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I listen. I like analytics a lot. I of course, I'm in the industry. There's a mix of football guy stuff, X's and O's. That's fine, but I don't know about running Joe Burrow out of the gun. Were you thinking the same thing? Like, oh my God, we're going from the gun here again?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes,
man. Anyway, we hit roster lock here, and the Bengals have been fun. So we'll see how these playoff pictures shake out. I don't know. What you have any last thoughts about today in general? Like, what had the main slate go, or you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any Jamar Chase, which we just talked about. Burrow, that he's been absolutely lighting it up. So ended up all right, but nothing big. Didn't get anything close. No real sweats, but about a break-even day for me overall. The Antonio Brown situation is just incredible. I'm still haven't dug in to see exactly what that was or seen. I know Arian said that he's not a buck anymore. So I haven't dug in to see what all that's about just yet, but what a weird situation. What a weird guy Antonio Brown is.
I want, and I hope he's well. Like you said, yeah, I don't know.
That's an important point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found
from our perception, he has done quite a bit that makes you wonder. And like, if it wasn't Tom Brady, would he even be in the league? Like, if Brady didn't lobby to, that was his guy. And I know this is a side of whatever's going on in real life, but yeah, I had him in one of my championships today. So literally, my buddy's like, "You got the Titans game on, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, Antonio Brown just took his clothes off and walked off the field." I was like, very funny, But,
yeah, but no, literally,
it did.
Yeah.
So, Mark, Kellen Mond, as far as I know, is not playing. It's it's Mannion. Man, you missed one show, Mark. Man, hopefully you didn't have a ton. Well, this would be like the backup quarterback thing of all backup quarterback things. If Mannion goes down on the first drive, what's Mond's? Mark, what is Mond's ownership? Are you on like the complete island out of anybody who played? I have to know. But man, I'm sorry if we maybe we should have circled back later.
Oh no.
Now I'm super confused.
Mark, no.
Oh man, can we just stay on real quick so we can find the end result of what's going on with our guy Don Easy real quick? See, we care about the
He's
people.
typing.
We're here for the
He's
Discord.
typing.
Yeah, man.
So
Anyway.
there could be an outcome where Mannion is just so bad that he gets benched right early on. It might work out.
It was intentional. He's with it.
I love it. Galaxy brain.
The ultimate backup quarterback slate. This would be, man. This would be. Wow. Well, good luck, man. Go get it and pop that lineup in the Discord or on Twitter. I want to see what it is because that's it's a bold strategy, Cotton, as they say in one of the best movies of all time. But we've seen it work. So, Dev and Keith, it's been a long day. Thanks for sticking with us a little bit later. Anything else, fellas? Or are we wrapping up the week?
I think that's a wrap for me. Good luck, everybody.
Early hat tip to Flo in chat if that if Mond ends up working out on that.
Yeah, you can hold it against us with the "oh no" clip. We'll clip it like, "Oh no, you shouldn't have played Mond," and you'll have that one against us for sure. I didn't run any Mond, and I've done this in the past once or twice, not with a couple darts, but you're right. Mannion could be absolutely terrible, and maybe he is. We'll see. So good luck to everybody, and for Keith and Devin. I'm Justin. We'll see you next week, I think, right? Yep. Sunday night game next week.
I think we got another one next week.
Yep. We'll see you sometime. We'll be in Discord. Hit us up, and thanks for sticking with us. Take it easy, guys.